So in this video, I'm going to go over the Veldt essay prompt. You should have by now read this story and taken your annotations on it, right? So, of course, one thing we need to recognize is that this was written in 1950 during the time of new appliances and just new advancements. And here, Bradbury gave us a cautionary tale, right, about the overdependence on tech. And I think it's really neat how it connects, so many decades later to what we're living today. So let's check it out. In Ray Bradbury's chilling story, The Veldt, a seemingly idyllic future home becomes a breeding ground for danger and despair. The story explores the complex relationship between tech and humanity, raising questions about the potential consequences of unchecked technological advancement. So here's our central questions where we need to hone in our attention. What is the role of tech in the Veldt, and what's its impact on the Hadley family? How does the Veldt relate to contemporary concerns about the role of tech in our society? So zero in on what you see as being the role of tech and what it does to the Hadley family, as well as make any parallels that you can see between that message and contemporary society, right? There's a lot of parallels, which is why I like this story so much. Here's some guiding questions that can help you, but ultimately we want to zero in on answering these central questions. Remember too, in your thesis statement, when you have a question, you answer it, right? And these are your central questions that you want to focus on. So make sure to properly introduce the story and author and answer these questions, right? We're focusing on tech and its role and how we see this message here connected to real life. One thing you might want to also consider is how does the story end, and recognize that in fiction, a lot of times the resolution or ending leaves us with an ultimate takeaway message, right? So how does this very extreme ending bring home a larger message about what Ray Bradbury wants to tell us about tech, right? And overdependence, as we see in this story. So as usual, at least 3.5 double-spaced pages. Here's how the points work, just like our first paper that we had is the same. And focus on your outline. That's the first thing that we're going to do. Here is the rubric for it. Please check it out. This is the rubric for the paper. Now let's take a look at the outline and what that looks like. So I have created this worksheet to help you. And let's check that one out. So this is designed, number one, to help you begin to brainstorm and then obviously outlining your actual paper. So we start with thinking of some themes of the Veldt and, answering this question: how does tech play the role in the Hadley family's life? And how do we see benefits and drawbacks of tech within the story? Here we're looking at some of the characters. One thing we want to recognize too is a lot of times, what they do, what happens in the story, leaves us with a larger theme. In fiction, characters can represent ideas and ideals, so pay attention to that, especially Wendy and Peter, right? The Hadley children. They really reflect what happens when you become so reliant on tech, right? They take it to the extreme, so pay attention to that. Here's a space for making personal connections with the story and your own life. And here's the main central questions you want to zero in on, right? And you want to answer that in your thesis, of course. With your intro, you want to think of how you want to introduce this topic of technological reliance, right? What might you use from even the story, right? And the connections and making connections to real life. And here's the spot for the thesis statement. For the body paragraphs too, how do you want to organize this? What do you want your first paragraph to be? That's what we were about. That's in the topic sentence. And then supporting evidence is what will you use from the story, and analysis is how will you use that. So here's the spaces for crafting your outline here. you can work with our embedded tutor. It's always helpful. And with the conclusion too, we want to zero in on the implications. So what? Why all this matters, why this larger takeaway message is important. Any sources that you use for the essay, of course, the story needs to be in here. And in case you use anything else, you need to list that. You always give credit where credit is due, right? So that is it for the worksheet. Make sure to get that in. Please let me know if you have any questions. See you guys. Have a good week.